Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to yet another episode of the BTP podcast. As always, joined by Daniel. How's it going, my man?
What up, my man, buddy? How's it going? Good to be here with you for yet another great show, basically. And obviously couldn't be any happier because fortunately we're hearing a lot of great news from around the world and the positive tendency. People are talking about their summer vacations and they're talking about how they can actually, enjoy their lives. I'm hearing a lot of, things regarding my post-pandemic bucket list. Is like now a trend among a lot of bloggers and even on social media. People are talking like, oh, my post-pandemic bucket list. What's yours? Here's mine. And like, that's a very positive thing to hear. And it's very inspiring. So generally it's pretty good. And we're waiting to hopefully take our lives to the next level once the pandemic is over and we can actually return to what basically we have now come to really cherish, called back to normal. Therefore, life is great and couldn't be any happier.
Absolutely. It makes lots of sense. I mean, everybody's planning, what I'm going to do next, the first and second, and the third after, things go back to complete normalcy, I suppose. So
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of those conversations going around, which is exciting. I don't know. Do you have any?
I'm actually curious. What is your post-pandemic, bucket list? What are the items basically on your bucket list?
Yeah, I just want to hang out with people. That's basically like
I think
lots
you guys
of
there
people.
are
not-
just fully deprived because nobody there
Yeah.
breaks the rule or something. I think you guys basically have been living, without any social contact for almost a year because the Canadians are extremely nice and they follow all the rules and all that. So I'm guessing you really need some social contact.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not just talking about like with one. I mean, like very group activity, bunch of people, not just two or
Of
three,
course,
maybe
that's
like
what we
10,
all
20.
need, man.
Right,
We
right.
want what we were not allowed to for over a year and a half now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly true. What about yourself? Do you have anything that is at the top of your
Well,
list?
as you know me, I cannot even live without group activities. So actually,
Exactly.
I was the only basically person holding group basically conversations and workshops. Of course, we had to scale down. We couldn't have a lot of people on board, but I was pretty much the only person that I know among my social circle who actually maintained a social basically event on a steady basis during this time. And quite frankly, if it wasn't for that, probably I would have, really found the whole experience much harder than it really had to be. So generally, for me, I just couldn't even wait for the pandemic to end. It's like, dude, I'm not going to wait for the end of the pandemic. I need at least 8 people in front of me right now. Let's get going, man.
No, I get it. And hey, as long as you've done it safe, which I'm sure you did, who cares, right? It's gonna be okay.
Obviously, everything is about safety, man. We all care about safety, buddy.
Exactly.
Fasten
all right.
the seatbelts before you start driving.
Exactly. That's
For
very
those of our
much.
listeners, when we're talking about that type of safety, by the way, yeah, fasten the seatbelts. That's exactly what Pouya meant.
Yes, that's that kind of safety. It's just check your mirrors and stuff.
Exactly.
Blind spots.
Both mirrors, especially the rear one.
All right. So now let's go back to the topic of today, which we're going to discuss how to deal with, mood swings and emotional difficulties one might have. Obviously, that would be one case during the pandemic, but even in normal days, sometimes you're not optimally tuned emotionally, if you will. So sometimes you have mood swings, you're not well, your hormones are acting up, men and women, not particularly for a specific gender, I suppose. So how would you go about dealing with that? So that's a very general question. It's a very general topic, but let's get a little bit into details. So, okay. So first of all, I think point is sometimes I personally find that you're not even aware of your mood swings, especially at the beginning of the day, right? So one element is identifying that as a okay, I'm not in a good mood today, right? Sometimes it's super obvious, but sometimes it's not. And in the cases that are not very obvious, what are your mechanisms to evaluate your mood on a day-to-day basis, if you have any, Dan?
Of course. Well, first of all, mood swing is, you mean like if you had any, because ultimately being human will make you subject to this mood swing. The question is how much, how frequently, and to what intensity can you actually get it back to normal? Ultimately, we all are subjected to this issue of mood swings. It happens to all of us. However, some of us by a combination of genetics, hormonology, and gender are more or less likely to suffer from mood swings. However, it is something that happens to every single one of us. I know a gentleman who said, "I don't have a bad day." That gentleman is Vladimir Putin. So if that's exactly what he really meant, I'm not sure if he was telling the truth in this situation, although Mr. Putin is not famous for telling the truth anyways. But the fact of the matter is, one of the things that many men especially proud themselves on is that I do not have bad days, or I'm always feeling great. I'm always in the sweet spot. Well, I think that should be an ideal that every man and woman should probably aspire for. But that's not the journey. It means our desire to have no mood swings. It requires us to actually go through a very lengthy process of personal development, both physically, because a great deal of mood swings basically have to do with our general level of health, energy, amount of sleep we get, how healthy our lives are. Are we smokers or non-smokers? Do we drink a lot of coffee in the morning and have a lot of caffeine in our system, or do we tend to eat healthier and we avoid all these basically junk foods and stimulants? So a great deal of that comes down to our health. And of course, a part of that is just pure genetics. Some of us are basically less stress resistant, and that itself means that we are a lot more likely to go through the emotional swings as the environment around us actually goes through all the inevitable changes that it actually goes through. And of course, finally, it's about gender. Again, there are studies that prove that women tend to be experiencing that more often, especially when they're feeling for certain hormonal basically changes in their body. However, that's of course a very small influencing factor. This means that mood swing is what basically affects both men and women across all ages and backgrounds. So it happens to all of us. However, what Vladimir Putin said, but I don't have a bad day, is probably like, I tend to have more good days than bad days. And I think that is a more realistic approach to aim for, and a more honest declaration that a man can make, because no matter how much you work, because if I right now tell our listeners, yeah, man, there are a lot of people out there who don't have bad days, like, oh man, I feel like shit. Look at all these people who are having all the time they're having good days and my life sucks. Because that's a lie. It's not true. It's quite normal to have bad days. I know a single person that I really personally know who doesn't have a bad day. Even though they are having a very healthy, successful lifestyle, they still go through those ups and downs just like anybody else will go through them, because it's human nature. However, while it is normal to have mood swings, it is not really normal to have those mood swings happening very frequently. And it's also not very efficient to let those mood swings affect your life in a way that it might actually interfere with your day-to-day functioning, or making, very bad decisions, oftentimes with lifelong consequences. So for that reason, we need to actually look at the issue a bit more seriously, accept mood swing as an inevitable part of being human, but at the same time, work on ourselves to actually somehow alleviate the negative side effects. So do I have mood swings? Definitely I do. But does it happen very frequently? I hope not. I try my very best to maintain a healthy lifestyle so that doesn't happen. And more importantly, it's about the way you think. So the way you think affects whether you will have mood swings. And if you're always thinking in a way that is causing you stress or is reducing your self-confidence, of course you will go through those depressive cycles and you're going to go up and down. But if you tend to think in a more healthy, positive way, you're more optimistic, obviously you will go through them a lot less. However, with that being said, the pandemic that just occurred, unfortunately, is a source of tremendous emotional angst among people around the world. And that's exactly what caused us to experience so many reports of suicidal thoughts, major mood swings, severe depressions. These were like some of the common things we heard a lot during the pandemic. And it's quite normal. If you keep someone in their room all day long for, months, if not years, obviously something's going to go wrong, because that's not what the body's designed to do. However, there are obviously techniques around the world that can allow us to hopefully reduce these swings as much as possible, and to hopefully increase the amount of stability and tranquility in our lives.
Yeah, that actually does make a lot of sense. And I wanted to actually bring us back to a point that you made briefly, kind of a minute or two ago, and that was about your mentality actually affects your moods as well. Like that couldn't be more emphasized, I suppose, because look, if you're on social media 24/7, I don't know, consuming news 24/7, I don't imagine how your mood would be. So I think our habits, even the social immediate social groups you're holding, I think that's why I think it's very important to pay attention to the type of people you're hanging out with, depending on what your intention, what your goals are. Well, of course, we're talking about emotional moods, but also life goals, right? So I think there's an emphasis to be made there. I just wanted to bring that back. Again, that's why, I mean, I have nothing against social media, but it can't be particularly healthy if you're over consuming it. If you're overexposed to the world, I suppose, by news outlets, social media, etc. I don't know if you have anything further to say there or not.
And you just pointed out to very, two major sources of mood swings. The news media, which is predominantly negative, and because let's be honest, the news media is a business. You see, I'm an entrepreneur. I look at all things through the prism and through the lenses of business and profitability. And when you look at most news media's basic model of business, they just want to attract more viewers, and they do it at any cost. And the cost is ultimately scaring people, because people, I mean, in the modern world, are extremely busy. They have a lot of, ways to keep their, attention focused on different activities. So in this situation, the media has to really focus on the negative and on the scary to attract enough viewers to make a profit. For that reason, the media, especially the news media, is not really designed for informing people of the news. More importantly, it's about generating profit for the mass media. And that obviously entails a lot of negativity and fear, which is why those who watch a lot of news tend to be very stressed and nervous most of the time. The other one that you point out basically pretty well, and that's so true, it's about the social media. It is proven that the more time you spend on social media, the more likely you are to suffer from depression, the more likely you are to suffer from lack of self-confidence, and ironically, you report far less levels of life satisfaction. This has been done throughout various researches that have been published in various journals. It is proven now that social media has a direct impact on your level of emotional, perhaps problems, issues, and even mood swings, as we discussed earlier. For that reason, that's one of the issues, which obviously comes down to managing the psychology. Again, mood swings is not purely psychological, because nothing psychological really is purely psychological. There's always a link between the body and the mind. So mood swings aren't just, if you really had a great time last night, you went to a party and you drank a lot, and you, I don't know, maybe smoke a little bit as well, don't expect to have a very good night's sleep. Don't expect to get 4 or 5 REM cycles throughout the night, because you're drunk. So you cannot have, proper REM cycles. You cannot sleep well because of all the nicotine in your system. And when you wake up in the morning, tired like a zombie, you cannot expect to jump out like, yes, I'm ready for a good day. Of course, like, oh gosh, what did I do yesterday? So that's exactly what happens to all of us. So all these issues comes down to the body and the mind. So the pandemic, put a very major limitation on our physical freedom. So we couldn't move as much outdoor. We couldn't be in social settings. And that is important, because your biology basically makes 50% of your entire emotional makeup. And then, of course, the other part is your psychology. Do you tend to be in a happy relationship? Are you surrounded by your friends and loved ones? Because we are social creatures. We are not meant to be loners. And the modern world, unfortunately, sometimes makes it seem like it's okay and normal to be alone, to be like, oh, I'm so cool, I'm so independent. But in reality, that's just a fantasy. It's just a way of, trying to say things that you're super cool. But in fact, this goes against our basic evolutionary wiring, even if you're an introvert. I mean, it's not just about extroverts like me. It goes back to our very nature as a species. For that reason, both of these elements are important. You pointed out social media and mass media, and you're definitely right about this, which is why I'm strictly against watching the news. Especially watching the news is a major stressor, because these news media basically outlets are trained how to make their headlines extremely stressful so they can actually attract your attention, and you can watch those material. The same thing, of course, goes with social media. People posting all their photos. Oh, I'm always on vacation. I'm always wearing this bikini, and I never look fat because I use all these beauty basically apps that make me, seem to, perhaps 25 pounds much lighter than I am currently. And obviously all those likes is going to make me look like I'm Miss USA. But in fact, if you see me in the morning, you don't even want to talk to me. So a lot of girls watch those girls like, oh my gosh, look at her. She's so perfect. And look at me. I'm all pimpled. and boom, guess what? Who's going to get depressed? Obviously,
Right.
because people are, everybody knows that people put their very best moments on social media. They upload their look at me, I'm always traveling. Yeah, working as an accountant who hates her job most of the time and just saving all these travel photos to post regularly on a weekly basis, of course. Or look at me, I'm so rich. I am currently driving a Lamborghini. Oh, by the way, sign up for my $1 course. Yeah, you're super rich. You want to sell it for $1. That's how rich you are. So in reality, people tend to look at these things and say, look at his life and look at my life, man. I'm a loser. And they're going to feel like shit. But once we raise the awareness and we realize that social media, especially our posts, have no reflection, and I mean no reflection of our real lives, then we'll actually not take it so seriously. And we spend ideally less time on these platforms, and we spend more time doing things that are more productive, including socializing, making friends, and talking to people directly instead of sending stupid comments like "you're the best" or I don't know, "great" with a number 8, GR8. Come on, man, stop it, and all those things. You instead try to meet real people, talk to them, call your best friend. What's going on, man? What's up, girl? And these are the things that actually, help us deal with this, and not wasting time on social media and, in front of the mass media.
Exactly. And I think, I think I missed the, the consumption of the food part, like the things that you eat part. Obviously, that has an impact. Good that you pointed it out. Now, okay, so I think we established a very good methodology to minimize our down days, let's call it, or downtime in terms emotionally. But as you mentioned, it's fairly reasonable to say probably impossible for any human being to be on have a good day every single day.
It is practically impossible.
Impossible.
I practice NLP every morning to get myself in a great state of mind. And I've been doing this for years now. Now, most of my friends have never seen me down, obviously. But at the same time, even someone like me, I have, my bad days too. I mean, I have my own share of bad days. Fortunately, again, I don't want to basically brag, but fortunately, those days tend to not be too many. But I'm still a human being. And even if all the science of, NLP and psychology, and you exercise the way I do 3 times per day and all that, and you try to eat healthy, it's still going to go through those inevitable tough moments. We all have bad days, and it's completely normal. However, like I mentioned earlier, the key here is dosage, the amount, the frequency. These are the things. If you are living like, oh, it's good, Daniel said, it's good to have a, emotionally unhealthy life, so it doesn't matter, I'm going to continue with my life the way it was. No, man, if you're experiencing major emotional swings that's happening frequently, that is a disease, man. You got to deal with that. But at the same time, don't bash yourself on the head if perhaps you're not having a perfect day 365 days, basically a year. That's quite normal. However, our goal is always to avoid perfectionism and instead try to make things a little bit better. How can I, instead of being, pissed off half the time, be pissed off 1/3 of the time? How can I actually have more, fun and enjoy my days a bit more and reduce these mood swings? That should be, I think, our target, which is a lot more realistic and achievable.
Perfect. But this is where I'm going with this. We land on those days, and it happens. You're right. We want to minimize the number of times and the intensity of it, but it happens with whatever intensity and whatever frequency. You find yourself in one of those days that is not. It sucks. You feel shit. What do we do?
Oh, you see, psychologists call this having feelings about your feelings. And that is one of the major causes of rumination and depression. You see, as I mentioned earlier, it's quite normal to have bad days. But the problem is some people feel bad for having basically bad days. They feel bad about feeling bad. And this ultimately makes them, extremely unhappy. So understand, accept the days that are, not bad as they are. Do not reject them. Do not resist them. Don't feel bad about them, because that's what we do a lot. It's like, shit, I'm feeling like shit. And I feel like shit because I'm feeling like shit. And this unfortunately creates a very negative inner cycle that makes it much harder to, recover from that. So you will literally program yourself to feel like shit for the rest of that day. Instead, what you would do, what I would do on a day like that, I would say, oh, well, I'm not as well rested as I expect because we're working yesterday on a project. Let's call it a project. And unfortunately, I was not able to get enough rest. Okay. So I see, well, there's for every basically benefit, there is a cost. You got to pay the cost. I paid the cost. I see. So we didn't get 8 hours as I expected. It was actually 6 hours. So I am going to go through the rest of the day feeling basically not well rested. I accept it. I'm not going to resist it. I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to say, why am I not feeling good today? It's terrible. I hate it. No. All right. I'm not going to resist it. I accept that today I'm not going to be well rested. But just because I'm feeling like shit and I'm not well rested doesn't mean that the whole day is going to be shitty. It's like, okay, so I'm definitely not going to be my most cheerful. Probably I'm not going to be able to make as many jokes today because I can't even, I don't even have a sense of humor today. But how else could I enjoy today in a best way possible? Maybe I should perhaps put a bit more, basically, I don't know, perhaps, I don't know, jelly in my breakfast to make it a little bit cooler. Or maybe I should go for a runner. Perhaps, I don't know, I'm going to be try to, go for a, let's say 10-minute run. Because I am a runner, so I want to do it. Let's do it a little bit longer today to enjoy that. Or since I'm not going to be very positive today, maybe I'm going to be a little bit grumpy. So I will tend to avoid most of the situations where I'm expected to be super funny. And instead I will work on my, let's say, tax today. I'm going to just do my taxes today. I'm not going to basically go out and meet people face to face. I will postpone my meetings for the next day. And today I'll do my boring stuff, my tax papers, for example, and other stuff. So you see, you don't resist it. You don't say why it happened to me, why I'm feeling like shit. You don't have feelings about your feelings. You accept them as they are. You don't resist them. And once you stop resisting them, now you open up the possibility to actually make that day much better than it would have been if you simply just blame yourself on, oh my gosh, I'm feeling like shit. So that is what I do myself during those days when I might not be at my peak. And I recommend everybody else do the same, because once you stop judging it, once you accept it, it actually becomes a lot easier. And you might, ironically, this is what happens to me most of the time. When I feel like I'm not well rested in the morning, or I'm not as fresh today, or I'm not as, let's say cheerful, I simply accept it. I go through the day as normal. And guess what? By the time I reach evening, I'm already in a good mood because I didn't resist it, right? But if you resist that, it's like, oh my gosh, you will go through the entire day and feel like shit. And probably that feeling might even persist for the next few days or weeks. So why don't we just stop resisting it, accept it as what it is, and try to make the most of it? I think that's the far better approach than just feeling bad about feeling bad.
Exactly. I think that makes a lot of sense. Actually, feeling bad about feeling bad, it's feeling bad squared to the power of 2.
Absolutely.
So
now we're going super math here, but yeah, that's like for those mathematicians and nerds, that's exact. You're literally, and as all mathematicians know, when you square something, that feeling, that's called exponential growth. This means as you go through the day, your negative feelings exponentially increase. Can you believe that? Because you mentioned a great thing like squared. That is exactly what happens. So you wake in the morning feeling like shit, but that negative feeling will then exponentially grow over time. So by the time you reach the evening, you just feel like hell. And that's what a lot of people, get super depressed. They even, do crazy stuff. So they start, abusing alcohol or drugs for that reason, because it's getting worse and worse. Like, what should I do? How can I regulate my state? Okay, I'm going to just, go for drugs. For that reason,
right.
Once you avoid making it squared, you simply allow yourself a way out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I think it's so many good advice. I actually haven't really thought about what you're going to say, so I wasn't anticipating anything, and I'm just blown away. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
All right. Okay, so we're kind of humming along to the end of the show. Is there anything in particular that we didn't talk about, or anything you want to revisit at this stage?
Well, first of all, you mentioned all the things that we had to say to our audience regarding the issue of mood swings. The thing that we didn't talk as much, obviously, was perhaps our biology. I mentioned earlier, there are clear linkages between what you eat and how much, especially sugar you consume, and other stimulants, and how stable you are. So if you're I have a lot of my friends, if you are, for example, addicted to certain types of basically mood altering substances, let's say nicotine, let's say sugar, let's say energy drinks, and these craps. And I really hate it, unfortunately, that I'm seeing these days many celebrities and many basically influencers are unfortunately selling this junk to people, energy drinks. I really believe that energy drinks should be abolished from the entire face of the earth. But unfortunately, now we are seeing a new trend. People calling, oh, I can live like hell and then have energy drinks going to solve all my problems. Now, if you believe in placebo, yeah, it does. But in reality, it'll actually ruin the body. So the other thing we discussed was about, of course, managing our mind, being positive and not having feelings about our feelings, because it's completely normal to have bad days. No one's going to judge you for that. You should not judge yourself either. Just go through the day, accept it as what it is. And more importantly, try to understand that it's going to be just one day. If you don't resist it, probably you'll have a bad day for one day, and the next morning you're going to feel fresh and everything's going to go back to normal. But if you keep persisting on that negativity, you might actually get involved in a major depressive cycle that could last for weeks, if not months. And above all, take care of your health. That means sufficient physical activities. If you don't like, if you're not like a gym rat the way I am, no problem. Go for walks. Put that goddamn car away. You're going to be saving the planet by reducing the carbon emission. And at the same time, you will get a lot more physical activities. Use the public transport. Trust me, I'm at a lot of great contacts in public transport. I love public transport. They make me so happy over the years. Man, I love the public transport. But the point is, you really need to be more active. Perhaps perhaps trying to change your basically schedule in a way that you're more on foot and you're less in your car. Even ideally doing more aerobic exercises, perhaps. Then, of course, your diet. Take care of that. How do you eat? How much do you eat? And more importantly, at what portions and at what times of the day? These are all important factors. Do you take regular supplements for multivitamin and minerals? Trust me, it is important. You say, but Dan, I want to eat all these things naturally. Well, it is proven that no matter how well you eat on a regular basis, if you're living in a modern city, buying the junk food that we buy these days called, fruits and vegetables, which most of them are not even organic, you're not going to get enough vitamins and minerals. So you need to have that supplements. Find the one that works for you and regularly take the supplements. It's definitely going to help you with your mood swings as well. And above all, do not have feelings about your feelings during those bad days. You can do all these things. You can have the regular exercise routine. You can eat healthy. You can have great relationships. You can do everything right. But you can still have shitty days. We all have them. So when it happens, just accept it as what it is, let it go, and try to make the most of it. And trust me, if you do that, you will probably not have to repeat the same experience the next day.
Amazing. Biology shall not be missed.
That was a very Darth Vader type of style. I really liked it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, gotta introduce a drama sometimes from time to time.
That's right.
All right. Thank you for joining us as always, Dan, for this episode.
My pleasure, man.
And I appreciate you all for listening in, tuning in. Without you guys, we're just humming to the void. So thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating if you're leaving comments. And thank you for your suggestions privately in the DMs and whatnot. And until a later episode, have a good one.